Imagine you're lying in bed, the weight of a long day slowly dissolving as your mind begins to drift. The light is gentle, your breathing steady. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to slow down. Have you ever wondered why the harder you try to control things, the more unsettled your mind becomes? Why fear, desire, and expectations keep pulling you away from yourself? The issue isn't that you're weak, it's that you're missing an inner map to move through chaos with calm. In this video, I will hand you Miyamoto Musashi's 21 principles. The code of a dying samurai, the parting instructions that help you master yourself. Receive instead of resist, loosen instead of cling, act mindfully instead of reacting in haste. Just walk with me, step by step, and you'll have a practice you can use tonight to come to rest. 4 to 4, 6 breathing. Naming your emotions and choosing one small but right action. No detours, no empty slogans. This is a practical path to feel safe and calm right now. Drop your shoulders, close your eyes for a beat, and listen. Musashi will show you how to win the storm within without ever drawing a sword. Imagine this. Dawn still holds a breath of mist, and the fields are blurred like a dream that hasn't yet learned its name. At the mouth of a mountain cave, an old man with a silver beard sits as still as a breathing stone, brush in hand, the strokes trembling lightly on thin paper. The sun hasn't risen, but the pale light is enough to touch his tranquil face. Miyamoto Musashi, more than a swordsman, a man who learned to live in peace in the heart of storms. He writes the last words of his life, Dokudo, the way of walking alone. Just 21 lines, short as cuts, straight as a blade, calm as a final breath. Those words aren't for winning over others. They're to teach us how to tame the storm within. Tonight, you don't have to strain to become someone else. You only need to take a slow breath, drop your shoulders, and let the first 4 principles pass through like 4 birds landing on the windowsill of your heart, arriving, sitting a moment, then flying away. And in that quiet, you hear a gentle truth. Everything passes, even the brightest stars. Yet the sky remains spacious, still, and vast. There are nights you lie down and your mind spins like a top. Why did things turn out this way? You want to bend the world to your will, want others to understand, want fate to be just a little kinder. And with each want, your heart grows a little more tired. Musashi sets down words that are short and sharp, like a blade slicing fog. Accept everything just the way it is. Acceptance isn't surrender. Acceptance is returning things to their true shape, not sugarcoating to comfort yourself, not blackening to punish yourself. Like a lake reflecting the moon, it doesn't need to become the sea, nor does it resist the freckles of rain. It simply stays still and reflects. Place your hand on your chest and hear your heartbeat at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for a beat to truly see, then exhale a little longer, as if laying a leaf on water. When the exhale is longer, the story in your head shrinks, as if someone just turned down the volume in a room with too many voices. Reality doesn't change, but somehow you become wider, wide enough to hold both joy and sorrow without breaking. Long ago, samurai learned to hold a sword, but they also learned to die with calm, not because they wanted death, but because they understood. The fearful cannot live fully. Acceptance is the courage to stand still, to look life in the eye, without demanding it look prettier. Perhaps tonight, you don't need to fix anything at all. You only need to take one deep breath and let everything be as it is. When you stop trying to instantly fix your feelings, you begin to see their structure. They arrive and depart, like clouds. The modern world teaches us that happiness means you must have more. More money, more love, more likes, more summits to prove something to someone you often don't even remember. But Musashi, who walked the edge of life and death countless times, wrote, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake." He didn't deny joy. He pointed out the trap of chasing sensation for itself. The more you chase, the shorter your breath. The shorter your breath, the shallower your heart. Think of a small, rainy afternoon, a steaming cup of tea, a half-closed window, the soft patter just audible. The scent of damp wood slipping into your sleeves. No one praises, no one criticizes, nothing to prove. Yet warmth slowly gathers in your chest. That joy doesn't flare to dazzle. It simply lights enough to see, like a candle in a dark room. And when the candle goes out, the warmth still hangs in the air, like a reminder. Happiness isn't something you achieve, it's something you recognize. You flip your phone face down and leave it on the table, like setting down a handbag you've carried too long. You take a sip of tea and listen to the way the warmth travels down your throat, then pauses in your chest like a gentle ember. In that very moment, you are practicing a subtlety Musashi names in the Book of 5 Rings. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. Sense what the eye cannot see. Sense the depth of a moment when your senses are allowed to work without haste. When pleasure steps out of the driver's seat, it becomes a composed passenger, sitting beside you and gazing out the window. And the steering wheel, you take it back, gently yet steady. But how do we keep from being carried off by gusts of feeling? Today, a single message can lift you for hours. A negative comment can sink you all night. We change feelings like changing shirts, then wonder why the heart never rests. Musashi wrote, "Do not depend on a partial feeling. Don't build an entire house out of a breeze that skims the porch. Imagine you standing before the evening sea. Waves come, waves go, waves come again. If you chase them, you'll be soaked and tired. If you fight them, you'll be spent. Only when you stand still do you see. Waves are only water, and water takes the shape of the shore. Feelings are the same. They are phenomena, not identity. You are not your anger. You are the sky it passes through. Try a tiny ritual. When a feeling rises, don't justify or attack. Just name it. Envy, fear, hurt, loneliness. Naming is like lighting a lamp in a dark room. The shadows don't vanish, but they lose their menace. Then exhale a little longer, as if returning the waves to the water. What needs to be said, let it wait until morning. What needs to be done, let it wait for 3 breaths. Strangely, after just an hour, the inner sea has changed. And you realize a simple line in the Book of 5 Rings that many have touched. The way is in training. The way lies in practice, not a flashy leap, but the steady cadence of small actions. Breathe, name, pause, then respond with calm. Repeat it enough, and you'll find you no longer have to try to be self-controlled, because the heart has learned to rest on its own. Then comes the line many love most in Dokodo. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Hold yourself lightly and the world deeply. We're taught to assert ourselves, to love ourselves first, and yes, self-respect is a spine. But when the I is too heavy, we cannot fly. Musashi lived with a startling simplicity. No wife, no children, no ostentatious possessions, no fame hung over his doorway. From that less, he saw more. Wind threading leaves, footsteps of morning, a streaking cloud. When you stop gluing your eyes to "I want," your eyes begin to notice what eyes rarely see. Exactly as the reminder says, perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. Try a 30-second gratitude sweep, the leaf beaded with water on the eaves, the clink of dishes in the neighbor's kitchen, your own breath steady as an oar dipping water. Everything turns into a gift, not because it's perfect, but because you're ready to receive it. Thinking lightly of yourself isn't self-diminishing. It's choosing a new kind of weight, light enough to be flexible, deep enough to root. Sometimes shining isn't cranking your own lights to full power, but stepping half a pace back so the world can pass through you without obstruction. You don't need to be the torch. You can be the doorway opened at the right hour, just enough for the light to come through. All of these, accepting, not chasing blind pleasures, not leaning on fleeting feelings, thinking lightly of yourself and deeply of the world, braid together like four cords that lash into a raft. You stand on it while the river of life runs beneath your feet. You don't need to fight the water. You learn its rhythm. You don't need to load more wood and make the boat heavy. You sand the planks you have so it glides smooth. The night may be foggy, the far bank still unseen, but you don't panic. You row slowly, hear water tapping the hull, smell the warm mud, watch silver on the backs of waves. Then the shore appears, not because you strained yourself to exhaustion, but because you kept the right rhythm. Acceptance and detachment means just that, not piling on, not rejecting. Quietly knot a few strands and move. The candle flickers, but even when it goes out, it still lights the path to your place of rest. You might wonder, how do these principles become more than pretty words on paper? The answer needn't be complex. Each night, choose 3 small things. Do 4 to 4, 6 breathing for 3 rounds to teach the body it's safe and calm. Name 1 strong feeling so it steps out of the driver's seat. Choose 1 gentle right action. Drink a warm glass of water. Turn off 1 more notification. Fold the shirt draped over the chair. That isn't cleaning up your whole life. It's laying a single brick on the way. Do a little today, repeat tomorrow. The way is in training. The path opens with steady steps. Long ago, under star-filled skies, humans dreamed of flight. Musashi didn't need to fly far. He wanted to stand still and watch the sky fly past him. Because he knew freedom isn't in the place we reach. It's in the posture with which we walk. When you accept, the tension of belief in your chest loosens. When you stop chasing blind pleasures, joy begins right there in your teacup. When you don't depend on fleeting feelings, your words wound fewer people. When you think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world, your eyes notice what eyes rarely see. a little gentleness that can change an entire evening. And now, as the room softens, you can close the day with a very small whisper. Lay your hand on your heart and thank it for working all day. Thank your eyes for seeing, your hands for holding, your feet for walking. Read 4 lines slowly in your mind. Like 4 strikes of a bell, accept everything just the way it is. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not depend on a partial feeling. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Let the words drop to the bottom of your heart like a pebble falling into a well. Now and then an echo returns, reminding you to walk straight. Everything passes, joy, sorrow, and the things that furrow your brow. Even the brightest stars go dark someday, but the sky remains spacious, still, and vast. Perhaps tonight you don't need to fix anything at all. Just breathe. Then let the night do the night's work. And as you drift to sleep, somewhere in the current of dreams, you might hear a line very soft yet clear. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye, to see what can't be seen with sight, to feel what only a quiet heart can hear. Tomorrow morning, when you wake, you won't need a grand vow. Just remember that the way lies in training. A slower breath, a gentler response, a kind gesture, placed at the right moment. That is enough. Imagine that once you've learned to accept and let go of what doesn't belong to you, a gentle, open space appears in your heart. That space isn't cold. It's like a plot of earth freshly washed by rain, the warm scent of soil smoldering after a storm. There, the next seed can settle. Gentle discipline. Not the kind of discipline that comes with shouting or the lash, but the kind that supports your back, rests a hand on your shoulder, and whispers, "Go slow, but go steady." From that quiet clearing, Musashi seems to sit beside you, eyes calm, palms lightly calloused, and speak 4 small but profound lines. Each line is a lantern in a fine, drizzling night, not dazzling, but enough to see the way home. Tonight, imagine you're sitting by a half-open window. Outside, the alley is wet, and the yellow lights reflect in fragments. In the room, the clock steps along unhurriedly. The shirt you just folded still holds a trace of your hand's warmth. You review your long day, plans marked in red, desires underlined, all the unseen must-haves and must-dos that tug your breathing off rhythm. Those things are beautiful, really, like bright kites. The problem isn't the kites, it's the string we pull too tight. Musashi says it's short and straight. Be detached from desire your whole life. This isn't rejecting desire. Desire is wind, is drive, is the heat that helps dough rise into bread. But if you tie yourself to it the way you tie your wrist to a kite string, a change of wind is all it takes to bring you down. Loosen just enough to remember you still have hands and feet and a direction. True freedom, it turns out, isn't loud. It walks on firm steps across a gravel path. Needs no witnesses, only your own knowing. Try holding a glass of water. Clench too hard and it spills. Open your hand and it falls. Hold just right, and the water stays still. That's detached. You see clearly what you want, recognize its pull, smile, and choose your own cadence. When your heart longs for something, you can ask softly, "If I don't have it, am I still me?" If the answer is yes, you're near the shore of freedom. And from that shore, fewer things demand to arrive immediately. What comes, you receive. What hasn't come, you set down. Long ago, beneath star-filled skies, people dreamed of flight. But to fly, you have to lighten your load. Life is the same. If you want to go far, first travel light. From desire, Musashi points to a place few dare to examine, the strong currents of emotion. He doesn't scold love. He merely reminds you of authorship. Do not let yourself be guided by lust or love. There are moments your heart urges you to send a message now, call now, decide now. A whisper presses. If you don't do it now, you'll lose it. Yet the first thing we often lose is clarity. Intense feelings are like an unbroken horse, beautiful, strong, useful. If there's a rein doesn't kill freedom, it lets freedom travel farther. When you love, go ahead and love, but hold that love within mindful arms. When you desire, go ahead and desire, but let that fire warm rather than burn. You can sit with your spine just straight enough, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6. When the exhale lengthens, the heart becomes less rushed. Ask quietly, what is this feeling trying to protect in me? Then ask, if I wait until tomorrow, will this decision change? Most storms inside us are brief. Give them a small anchorage and the waves will ease. At that anchorage, self-respect stands with you. Wisdom stands beside you. And love, if it remains, will stand in its right place, not driving, just riding along. Then there's a line that sounds austere, but actually opens the door to curiosity. In all things, have no preferences. This isn't blandness, not anything is fine, eat whatever. Musashi doesn't tell us to abandon taste. He invites us not to be bound by it. You walk through a garden, some flowers you favor, some plants you don't yet know. If you stop only at your favorites, you'll miss the rest of the garden. We often call a day good when everything goes our way. But mature happiness is a day that's still good even when it doesn't go your way, because you have another capacity. Instead of resisting, you ask softly, what is today trying to teach me? Non-attachment is also a posture of the body. Shoulders down, brow unfurrowed, hands not clenched, and a posture of the mind. I'm ready. Without clinging, we become more flexible, more creative, and more at peace. Like a ferryman, he rows in rain, he rows in sun. He doesn't argue with the sky, he harmonizes with the water. Try something tiny. Tomorrow, if the meal isn't to your taste, don't rush to judge. Eat a little slower and listen to which flavor rises. Who knows? Displeasure might be the first door opening to a new frontier of experience. The fewer preconceptions we carry, the richer life's possibilities become. Then Musashi speaks to something turned into a race these days: flavor. Do not pursue the taste of good alt food. It sounds like hitting the brakes on a highway, but he isn't forbidding pleasure. He's reminding us not to chase it. Pursuing peak sensations conditions us to the peak and dulls our ability to see beauty in the ordinary. Recall a simple breakfast, a bowl of plain rice porridge with a thin slice of ginger, a warm glass of water, the soft clink of a spoon on porcelain. Nothing to brag about, yet the body is grateful. The mind grows half a kilo lighter. Simplicity doesn't make you less, It makes you more sensitive. The rain sounds clearer, the warm wood smells deeper. A loved one's words strike the right note. Musashi lived without excess. Sword, brush, paper, hearth, enough. Inside that word, enough, is freedom. When needs grow smaller, the soul's space expands. And sometimes the best flavor isn't on the tongue, but in the ease that settles after the meal. Not the quick flare-up, but the steady settling. People often label these 4 principles as stoic, but if you lay a hand over your heart, you'll feel they're actually kind. They don't ask you to turn into iron. They teach you how to be less dragged around. Be detached from desire your whole life. So what you want doesn't make you its slave. Do not let yourself be guided by lust or love. So strong energy doesn't seize the wheel. In all things have no preferences. So your taste doesn't become your shackle. Do not pursue the taste of good food. So your palate doesn't yank your heart along. These 4 chords weave into a raft. Light, sturdy, gliding smooth. You stand on it as the river of life flows beneath your feet. You don't need to fight the water. You learn its rhythm. No need to pile on more timber. You sand the planks you already have. If you want a compact whisper for tonight, freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is wanting much and still choosing what's needed. And what's needed in the end is often simple. A rested body, a clear mind, a warm heart. Perhaps tonight you don't need to fix anything at all. Just breathe. Place your palm on your chest and hear the heartbeat like an old friend at the door. When gratitude appears, desire becomes less demanding. When demands quiet down, serenity rises like a lake after wind. You can murmur 4 lines, like 4 bell strokes falling through the night. Be detached from desire your whole life. Do not let yourself be guided by lust or love. In all things, have no preferences. Do not pursue the taste of good food. Slowly, in step with your breath. Then let the words sink to the bottom of your mind like pebbles. No need to think more. Sleeping is also a way of practice. But before you close your eyes, there's a delicate point worth saying. These principles don't require grand victories all at once. They only ask for a steady cadence. Musashi wrote in the Book of 5 Rings, "The way is in training. The way lies in practice. Practice isn't a thundering symphony. It's the steady breathing of a gardener each morning. Today you turn off 1 more notification. Tomorrow, you drink a warm glass of water before touching social media. The next day, you delay a tempting but dangerous reaction. 3 small steps, repeated long enough, become tendon and bone. And when the next storm blows through, you suddenly realize you don't need to brace so hard. Your body, your breath, your habits are holding you up. In the night, the room is just dark enough. You hear cars far off. A sliver of wind slips through the curtain. You recall Musashi's words like a spark slipping through leaves. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. Pay attention to what the eyes don't catch, the weariness softening at your shoulders, the thoughts easing at your brow, the heartbeat slowing to the clock's pace. These small, gentle details are so mild that unless you slow down, you'll miss them. But tonight, you did slow down, just enough to see. Long ago, under starry skies, humanity dreamed of flight. Centuries later, in cities with more lights than stars, The loveliest dream is to sleep in peace. Gentle discipline doesn't turn life into a drill field. It turns the drill field into a garden. You still train, still practice, still tighten the loose screws, but you do it in the rhythm of trees, slow, steady, unnoisy. When you're detached in the right places, the love within you doesn't fade. It simply stops driving and lets wisdom take the wheel. When you practice no preferences to the right degree, your personality doesn't disappear. It just stops acting like a king. When you don't chase peak flavors, your palate doesn't grow poor. It becomes richer in subtler ways. And when desire no longer hardens into a tether, your energy becomes a good friend again, pushing the boat lightly, not sinking it. Let the story close with an image, an oil lamp in the night, a small flame, steady, unshowy. It doesn't demand to blaze to prove it outshines stars. It just does its job, lighting your way to bed. When it goes out, the warmth remains, like a blessing. Everything passes, even the brightest stars. But the sky stays, vast, still, and kind. And in that sky, if you keep the rhythm of gentle discipline, loosening where needed, loving with a rein, opening without clinging, choosing simplicity over display, you'll see your way grow clearer, not with fireworks, but with quiet footsteps. Tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, you won't need a grand vow. Just remember one small thing. The way isn't in the destination, but in how we place the next step. One longer breath, one slower reaction, one kind choice, right there in the kitchen. That's enough. And from this part two, where discipline, restraint, and ease within the simple are sown, you'll naturally step into the next story. Looking around your home, both the physical house and the inner one, and noticing what's old, excess, and no longer needed for the road ahead. There, part three opens quietly. Honesty with yourself, the courage to let go, and growing through awareness. Keep what's worth keeping, release what's ready to go. Smile at impermanence like greeting an old friend. And you'll see, as Musashi wrote and lived, the way doesn't need applause. It needs a traveler, steady, gentle, and true to the path. When discipline has become a natural rhythm of breathing, we begin to hear the very small sounds of life more clearly. The ego rustling softly as it wants one more purchase to feel at ease. The familiar hand repeating an old habit just because everyone does it. The timid sidestep that dodges death, then quickly changes the channel. In that very moment, Musashi doesn't shout, doesn't teach with a whip. He simply opens a door a crack and invites us into a bare room floored with warm wood, where the fragrance of freshly poured tea drifts by like a greeting. In that room, growth isn't noisy. It arrives through three simple, steady actions: letting go, thinking differently, and facing what is. We step in, rest our back on a bamboo chair, and listen to words that are calm and clear, not to become someone else, but to return to ourselves. A self tidier, more honest, and therefore lighter. Imagine a late autumn afternoon. The house is quiet, as if after a long rain. You open the wardrobe, and your hand accidentally touches a shirt you haven't worn for ages. A deep calm spreads, like brushing a closed memory. Suddenly you realize you are no longer the person who bought that shirt. The size of your life has changed, and yet you still keep it, as if holding on to an old version of yourself. Here, Musashi's words arrive like a gentle knock. Do not hold on to possessions you no longer need. Not because he hates belongings, only because belongings tend to cling to the mind. Each object is a string. Many strings turn us into a kite afraid to fly. We think we fear falling. In truth, we fear leaving behind what once helped us stand. Long ago, under star-filled skies, humanity dreamed of flight. But to fly, birds must shed wet feathers. People must drop excess baggage. Letting go doesn't make us less. Letting go lets us return to the right weight for takeoff. Minimalism, then, isn't a trend to flaunt. It is the courage to choose. Keep what serves the way. Set down what only serves habit. Tonight, if you'd like to begin, you can prepare a gentle past box. Place inside one item you no longer need but once loved. Say thank you. Then gift, sell, or recycle it. As the box grows lighter, the room will breathe deeper, and so will your heart. Leaving the wardrobe, Musashi turns us toward the busy street. There are ruts so crowded we mistake crowded for correct. From how we work to how we love, from our goals to how we celebrate. Countless things we adopt simply because that's what everyone does. There, he reminds us, do not act following customary beliefs. This line doesn't invite blind rebellion. It invites you to return the right to think to yourself. The crowd's habit is like warm water, comfortable, convenient, lulling. But warm water doesn't forge a sharp blade. Each time you pause and ask, why? An invisible hammer falls, tempering another grain of your steel. Then you remember another line in the Book of 5 Rings. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. There is more than one way up, and one of those ways bears your name. When you dare to leave the crowded path, at first you feel lost. Then your sight sharpens. You hear trickling water beneath the rocks. You smell nameless wildflowers. The reward for those who dare to think differently isn't applause. It's the return of the senses. You begin to see, hear, and breathe with your own eyes, ears, and lungs. You don't need to be more right than anyone. You only need to be more right than yourself yesterday. But there is a door many still avoid, the door of impermanence. At its mention, our hearts briefly contract. Musashi speaks in a voice even as a soft drum at night. Do not fear death. Not because he is careless with life, but because he understands that the root of fearing to live is often the fear of dying. When we fear loss too much, we shrink. When we shrink, we miss the moments meant to be lived wide. Picture a candle. The flame doesn't argue with the dark. It burns fully, then goes out. But even as it goes out, it has shone enough for you to find your bed. Pull the blanket to your chest and smile in peace. Perhaps the candle's purpose isn't to last as long as possible, but to fulfill its duty to light. Musashi, after a life rarely slept in peace, chose to die awake. He wrote Dokodo in a cave, dipping his brush into his final days with a steady hand. And he left another reminder, plain as an arrow pointing the way. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. Today, defeat who you were yesterday. Tomorrow will take care of the rest. Facing death, he cared less about wins and losses outside and focused on the silent battle, the battle with himself, day by day. Honesty, simplicity, mindfulness. 3 words that sound dry, but in Musashi's hands become three ways of living. Honesty with yourself doesn't need a grand declaration. It's the kind where you look at your wardrobe, your schedule, your contacts, and ask, "Is this still me?" If not, set it down. Simplicity isn't emptiness. It's making space for what is calling your name. Mindful living isn't always gentle. Sometimes it stings, like peeling old skin. But after the mild burn, the new skin learns to breathe. These three gestures twist into a rope that lashes drifting logs into a raft strong enough to carry you through the river's whirl. You stand on the raft, watching both banks fall behind, and realize, growing up isn't about accumulating more, but about connecting better, between values and choices, between the present and impermanence, between yourself and the world. As you grow less dazzled by surplus and noisy habit, you begin to hear the whisper of something nameless, the direction that's right for you. Not the fastest road, not the road with the loudest applause, but the road that gives you a peaceful sleep at day's end. And in the calm of that warm room, we practice small rituals, like commas in a long sentence, so the rhythm of life doesn't break. Let go one, question one, notice one. Let go one, choose a small item to give away, say thank you before releasing it. Question one. Before a habit that everyone does, ask why. If there's no reason, pause for a day. Notice one. Close your eyes for a minute and picture a candle. Ask, if tomorrow doesn't come, what small thing do I want to do fully tonight? Then do that, lightly, sufficiently. These steps won't make your story more dramatic. They will make your life more at ease. And when life is at ease, the energy you radiate is wholesome. Others may not know why, but they will feel it. You might say, I know all this, but how do I stay focused amid 1,000 tugs? We don't need grand commands. We need clear beats. For now, let's divide tonight into 3 segments your mind can hold. Let go of stuff. Let go of the crowd. Let go of fear. In the first segment, place the gentle past box in a corner of the room. In the second, grant yourself the right to ask why. Once more, before following along. In the third, put your hand on your chest, feel your heartbeat, and acknowledge. Everything is moving, and motion itself is not the enemy. 3 segments, 3 breaths, 3 gestures, each brief but clear, so you don't lose the thread of your own story. Many worry that simplicity will turn life into a desert. But when you set down the things that used to be your talismans, you begin to see small, shining details again. The clink of a spoon on porcelain, the scent of soap on freshly washed hands, the pillow fluffed just right. When you leave the crowded path to walk your own, you begin to hear the sounds once masked by noise. Water running under rocks, insects in the grass, an apology that needs to be spoken. When you dare to look straight at impermanence, you understand that peace doesn't come from prolonging everything, but from doing your part well and smiling. Under the vault of stars, what remains isn't how many stars you can count. What remains is the posture with which you look up, calm, grateful, unrushed. Night settles. You can tell yourself a little story like a lullaby. In a riverside village, a man built boats from wood scraps found along the shore. At first, he tried to attach as many pieces as possible, afraid of lacking. The boat was heavy and unstable. Later, he learned to use boards that fit the hand, sand them smooth, lash them tight. The boat grew light, gliding easy. Once, in thick fog, he couldn't see the far bank. He didn't panic. He rowed slowly, listened to the water tapping the hull, smelled the warm mud, watched the silver on the backs of waves. Mindfulness had become the compass. When the shore emerged, he smiled. Not because he had arrived, but because he had traveled in peace. He knew there would be many more trips, many more nights. The boat might age, the wood might split, but the river would still flow, and his hands would still remember the stroke. That story teaches you nothing new. It simply returns a familiar rhythm to your heart. Now, you can read slowly, like 3 bell strokes to close the day. Do not hold on to possessions you no longer need. Do not act following customary beliefs. Do not fear death. Then let the words sink like pebbles dropping through water. The surface will ripple, then smooth. When it's smooth, the clouds reflect clearly. And in that mirror, you see you don't need to fix anything more tonight. Just breathe. Lay a hand on your chest and listen as the day draws to a close. Everything passes, even the brightest stars. But the sky remains, spacious, still, and vast. The candle flickers in the room. Even when it goes out, it has already lit your path to rest. Before you close your eyes, remember Musashi's teaching like a red thread running through it all. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. Sense what the eyes don't see. That might be the release in your shoulders after you set down an object, the lengthened ease of your breath after you decline a crowd habit, the faint warmth in your chest when you accept that impermanence is part of the dance we are dancing with life. And if you need a firm, compact closing for tonight's stretch, the way is in training. The way lies in practice, not giant leaps, but small, steady steps in the right direction, repeated until they become who you are. Tomorrow morning, as the first light tiptoes into your room, you wake to a home half a beat tidier, inside and out. You don't need a grand vow, just a small guiding question. Is this still me? If not, set it down. If yes, hold it well, then walk on. And when we've lightened up and begun to see life with our own eyes, we naturally see others differently too. Less envy, less resentment, less hurt from goodbyes. That's the start of a new chapter, where peace isn't only solitude, but gentleness between people. There we learn to open our arms without losing our center. We practice hearing what isn't said in another's words. We know how to bow to understand the wind and stand to understand the earth. That path is opening just beyond the threshold you're about to cross, soft as wind, steady as river. And we will continue, steady, gentle, and true to the way. When we've lightened ourselves by letting go of what is no longer us, and we dare to think with our own head, a space opens in the chest, wide enough for the breath to move at ease. That space is like a waterside after rain. The warm scent of earth, leaves dripping, the river's surface smooth like a freshly wiped mirror. In that stillness, a quiet question steps in, as if someone has just closed the door behind them. How will I walk with others without losing the axis of my own center? Musashi, with the calm bearing of a man who has lived through many seasons of wind, lays a hand on our heartbeat and speaks softly. Harmony with life is the hardest lesson, Because every feeling, every encounter is a training ground. Not training to defeat anyone, but to keep from dropping ourselves amid glances, demands, scheduled farewells, and unexpected reunions. From here, we learn to open the door of the heart while still locking the latch of our essence. We learn to step toward others without treading on the boundaries that must be respected. We learn to stand inside the storm with our clothes still dry where it matters most, within. Before speaking of technique, Musashi points to 3 undercurrents that steadily drain our energy: envy, sorrow at parting, and the habit of resentment. He writes briefly and directly, like planting 3 small signs by a night road. Do not envy others. Do not be overly saddened by separation. Resentment and complaint are inappropriate, neither is offhandedness. Not noisy, but if we're willing to read slowly, we'll know how to avoid the cliff. Envy is the shadow of light. The closer to light, the sharper the shadow. Our era turns life into a vast showroom where everyone has a glass shelf to display their finest version. Our eyes look, our heart stirs, and before we know it, someone else's happiness becomes an accusation against our own delay. Musashi says, "Do not envy others." Not because he is strict, but because he knows each person is fighting a different battle. Outwardly, there's glory. Inwardly, discipline, closed wounds, and countless falls no one sees. Envy is a slick downhill path that starts with a careless glance and ends in a ravine of disorientation. When we practice understanding, envy melts like mist in sunlight. Try something small. When you see someone applauded, take a gentle breath and offer a blessing in your mind. It may sound naive, but in that instant, your heart chooses to stand with the light instead of hiding behind a shadow. The shadow loses its reason to grow. Then comes separation. What meeting doesn't plant the seed of goodbye? Long ago, under star-filled skies, humans dreamed of flight. Yet every takeoff is also a departure from the dock. Parting is not failure, it is one of life's breaths. Musashi reminds us, do not be overly saddened by separation. We have the right to be sad. Sadness proves we truly loved. But don't be so sad that you lose the portion of life still ahead. Tears can water a new beginning. Don't let them become a flood. Try placing your hand over your heart. Whisper thanks to the one who has gone, or to the old version of yourself that has left, and say softly, "Thank you for walking with me to this point. I will continue." That sentence doesn't close. It opens a gentle commitment to the present, to remain without clinging, to move on without resentment. And resentment. It gives the sensation of immediate breath, like throwing open the windows in a stuffy room. But a life built on complaint becomes a house with no front door, only windows, drafts everywhere, and the warmth we most need never stays. Musashi douses that habit with the line, "Resentment and complaint are inappropriate. Neither is offhandedness." Here, inappropriate isn't a moral verdict. It's a statement about energy. Resentment siphons our life force, turning us into victims even when we still have hands and feet to act. Instead of asking, "Why did they?" try switching to, "What can I do right now?" It may not sound glamorous, but it puts our hands back on the wheel. Once our hands hold the wheel again, the road turns out less bumpy than we thought. When the 3 undercurrents have calmed, Musashi speaks to the root, place. Be indifferent to where you live. It may sound austere, but the spirit of this line is, don't hand over your peace to a zip code. If your inner life is the house, the world is merely the view from the window. When the heart is steady, anywhere can be a refuge. When the heart is shaky, everywhere is makeshift. Have you ever slept soundly in a strange hotel? Not because the bed was perfect, but because your body has rituals. Dim the lights, warm water wash, 4 to 4, 6 breathing. Read a few lines, then close the book. Ritual is the key. Address is only the lock. Any lock opens if you carry the key. From here you grasp something simple yet liberating. Peace isn't in the city or the countryside. It's in how you close your eyes. The sky outside changes seasons. The sky within you is the governing climate of your life. Harmony, therefore, isn't about enduring everything, nor agreeing with every single thing. Harmony is holding your central axis amid collisions of difference, like a spinning top that stands upright by its quiet speed. When we stop trying to control others, we recover the energy to adjust ourselves. The voice slows by half a beat, the gaze softens a little, the words lose their sharp corners. Imagine two people standing on two drifting ice floes. If each tries to drag the other over, both will fall. But if both turn to face one direction and follow the current, the two flows drift closer of their own accord. Harmony is the heart's aligned direction, not a forced agreement of opinions. And to see direction, we must learn to look at the unseen. Musashi puts it simply yet deeply in the Book of 5 Rings. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. In communication, the unseen is the motive, fear, and longing beneath the words. When we listen so deeply that we hear what hasn't been said, relationships change hue. Less arguing right, wrong, more understanding difference. Difference stops being a trench and becomes a bridge. There is a garden where a pine stands proud, upright, evergreen. Beside it is hollow bamboo, slender, bowing to the wind. Storm season comes. The pine snaps a branch and cries that the heavens are unfair. The bamboo bows low, passes through the great gale, and then stands tall again when the sky clears. So it is with harmony among people. Sometimes we stand to keep our values. Sometimes we bow to keep the shared rhythm. Bowing isn't weakness. Bowing is understanding the wind. Standing isn't rigidity. Standing is knowing the earth. A wise life is knowing when to bow and when to stand. And to be on time, we need an inner clock powered by listening, slowness, and compassion. Yet we are human. Old instincts slip into new hours. That's why small rituals serve as anchors, so the mind doesn't drift. Tonight, try shifting perspective. Close your eyes and recall someone you envy. Whisper, I too am incomplete in places. When you recognize kinship, envy loses its sting. Then write a single line for some goodbye in your life. Thank you for walking with me to this point. Fold it, set it down. Finally, when you're about to let loose a complaint, swap it for a small action. Pour warm water, open a window. Tidy a corner of your desk. Action instead of grumbling. These don't make your life explode with special effects. They simply adjust the temperature in the house within, so breath no longer evaporates in vain. You'll ask, how do I keep focus in a world that steals attention by the second? Don't try to carry the whole mountain into tonight. Break the road into 3 markers so your eyes don't stray. First, when dazzled by others' shine, offer a blessing to snuff out envy's spark in the egg. Second, in the face of a parting, keep one gesture of respect, a thank you or a kind silence, so the heart has a seat. Third, when agitation wants to flare, delay one complaint with one small act. These 3 markers are not grand, but they draw a bright enough line for you to walk through the night. And if you need a mantra for times when where you live becomes an excuse to postpone peace, remember, be indifferent to where you live. Peace is a habit, not a place. It lives in the cup you wash clean before shelving, in the notebook you close after 3 honest lines, in the breath you lengthen to ease the knees. When you carry home within you city or countryside, rainy night or sunny day, are just backdrops. By now, you may see a fine thread running through every lesson. Openness paired with self-mastery. Open without drifting, hold without clenching. We open to see others, to hear the unspoken, to dare to touch a nameless fear. At the same time, we keep our axis with small chords, rituals, boundaries, quiet promises to ourselves. Lose the chords, and we drift, pull too tight, and we harden. Between those banks, Musashi teaches a way of walking. Walk like a ferryman who knows the water's rhythm, like bamboo that knows the wind, like pine that knows its roots. Night deepens, and perhaps only the clock's ticking remains in your room. You place a hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat like a steadily burning candle. The candle doesn't argue with the dark. It simply does its part, to shine. When it goes out, the warmth remains, having lit the path to your rest. Perhaps tonight you don't need to fix anything. Just breathe. Everything passes, even the brightest stars. But the sky remains, and beneath that sky, you are a gentle streak of light, enough to guide yourself into sleep. Before closing your eyes, read slowly these whispers like 4 dewdrops falling through leaves. Do not envy others. Offer blessing instead of comparison. Do not be overly saddened by separation. Be sad just enough to keep living. Resentment and complaint are inappropriate. Neither is offhandedness. Action instead of complaint. Be indifferent to where you live. Carry home within. Let each line sink to the bottom of your heart like a pebble falling through a pond. The surface will ripple, then smooth. When smooth, the clouds reflect clearly, and you see clouds drift on. The sky stays wide. If you want to stitch one small thread onto this fabric of calm, remember the line in the Book of 5 Rings. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. The quality of a relationship is often not in the words themselves, but in the spaces you are brave enough to hold. Long ago, under a sky of stars, humans dreamed of flight. Today, in cities with more lights than stars, the most enduring dream is to love well, to love without envy, without resentment, without demanding a perfect setting as the price of peace. Harmony and emotional maturity won't necessarily make you loved by the many. They help you love rightly with depth. From here, once we've learned to walk among people without dropping ourselves, the next question comes naturally, like dawn slowly climbing the windowsill. After all, what is worthy of keeping to the end? Where will we place our honor? What way of living will we refuse to relinquish even in the storm? That is when the door to the next part opens: legacy, honor, and the way, where Musashi speaks of what deserves to be held until the final breath, and of the quiet vow of a self-governed soul, to walk steadily, gently in the right direction, and never stray from the way, so that when night falls, we can lay our head on our own pillow and sleep as peacefully as a child. When we've learned to walk among people without losing ourselves, less envy, less resentment, bringing our own peace wherever we go, a gentle, deep question opens in the chest. After everything, what will remain of me? Not what can be counted in numbers, but the direction I walked, the way I lived, the honor I kept. At this threshold, Musashi doesn't teach us to fight one more battle. He teaches how to live like a promise. And the final part unfolds like a path paved with 5 stones: need, enough, faith, honor, walk. Walk to live upright. Walk to sleep peacefully. Walk so that when you close your eyes and your breath leaves your body, your heart is still whole. Imagine a night of mist-like rain. In the corner of a swordsman's room sits a plain wooden rack. On it, only 2 swords, a calligraphy brush, and a coarse cloth. Not because he couldn't have more, but because he refused to let his hands slide into the habit of accumulation, the habit that makes people busier without making them stronger. Musashi writes in Dokudo, "Do not collect weapons or practice with weapons beyond what is useful." Weapons here are not only swords, they are any tools we drag home to cover fear. Courses bought for peace of mind but left unfinished. The latest gadgets used a few times, then left to gather dust, just in case relationships that only tangle the calendar. We think more is secure. In truth, more is heavy. When we keep only what serves the way, we suddenly feel light, like a person ascending a narrow staircase. Each step firm, fewer bumps, a calm heart because the hands have stopped piling on. What's needed stays, what's excess leaves our hands. The energy once trapped in managing a hoard of just in case returns, like water receding from flooded banks, leaving fields dry for sowing. Perhaps tonight, try writing down the 3 things you truly need this month. Set the rest aside for now. It isn't abandoning life. It's giving it back a lean form so it can go far. Then comes a very human fear, the fear of arriving at old age empty-handed. At times, we accumulate not out of need, but out of fear. Afraid that on a quiet night, hearing the clock tick, we'll realize we have nothing to tell. Musashi sees that trembling hand and speaks gently yet directly. Do not seek to possess goods or fiefs for your old age. This line doesn't promote recklessness, nor deny financial responsibility. It simply reminds us, don't let fear of the future draw the map for the present. True wealth doesn't lie in what's buried beneath the floorboards, but in what inflation can't touch. Experiences deeply lived, friendships tended with kindness, purposes followed to the end. Open a frayed notebook, one not full of numbers but full of pen strokes across the years. A forest trip with your child, an apology given at the right time that saved a friendship, a habit of reading 20 minutes before bed, a firm no to something against your code, even when the reward was great. At a certain age, we see it clearly. One more asset won't help us sleep. Keeping a promise will. And when promises become habit, we gain a kind of security that needs no safe, the security of someone who knows who they are. But in life, who hasn't looked up to the sky hoping for a sign. On some nights, people seek out temples, or simply stand by a window, palm on cold glass, hoping the universe nods. Musashi doesn't mock faith. He writes, "Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. Respect is a straight back, clean hands, a quiet voice before the sacred. But the steps still must be ours. The most beautiful faith doesn't replace action. It undergirds action. So we do the right thing even when no one is watching. So we fix what needs fixing before any reward appears. You might light a candle before a hard task and pray silently. Grant me clarity. Then open the document, pick up the phone, say the apology, untangle a knot, complete a small part. The power of the divine often arrives through the hands of those who do the right thing at the right time. Sometimes the miracle is an email written in the right tone, an appointment kept on time, a decision to stop before crossing your own limits. Then we reach a word that seems old but is always new: honor. On this principle, Musashi's phrasing leaves no hiding place. You may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor. Honor is not a halo, nor a coat we put on. Honor is the stone slab at the river's edge. Step onto it and you know what you're standing on. In everyday life, honor means not overstating what you've done, not using profit as an excuse to forget your promise, not cutting others down to boost yourself. Honor in silence is harder than honor in applause. It asks you to choose what's right when no one knows, to keep what's right when no one supports you. Remember a drizzly day when you stood before an easy choice that veered from your values. It felt like standing under an eave, one step beneath a strange awning, and you'd be dry, but lost. Musashi invites us to accept getting a bit wetter to keep our path home. Abandon your body, sacrifice temporary comfort, preserve your honor, guard what makes you still you. When understood, we fear loss less. We accept surface losses so our words keep their force, so our eyes can meet the mirror without flinching. Finally, the most important counsel, like a final movement whose resonance lingers: never stray from the way. The way is not a specific street. It's the inner wind direction, your way of living where values, actions, and breath align. Long ago, under star-filled skies, people dreamed of flight. Those who flew farthest weren't the ones with the biggest wings, but the ones who knew the wind. Once you sense the wind inside you, you don't need to sprint. You only need to keep a steady pace. In the Book of 5 Rings, Musashi writes a line as lean as a bell strike. The way is in training. The way lies in practice. In the day you write just a single solid paragraph. In the time you refuse a very large contract because it's against your code. In the nightly habit of placing your hand over your heart and asking, "Did I live by my direction today?" The way needs no fireworks. It needs quiet steps. You can go slowly, even pause to breathe. The only thing you mustn't do is veer onto someone else's road just because it's brighter. Brightness is just electric light. Rightness is dawn. If you need a story to stitch these ideas into reality, remember the old blacksmith in a small village. He was renowned not for quantity, but because every piece was right. One day, a student asked, "Master, what is legacy?" He pointed to the forge. "It's not the number of blades, but how my fire burns. The fire uses only necessary wood. It doesn't waste. The fire doesn't rely on the wind. When wind comes, it greets it. When wind leaves, it breathes on its own. The fire doesn't flare at praise, doesn't die at blame. The fire holds steady until the steel holds its shape. And every day he lit the fire on time, rain or shine. By the end of his life, people could count a few dozen famed blades. But when asked about legacy, the villagers simply said, "He lived very straight." That is legacy. Legacy isn't what we say at the end. It's how we do the small things, long enough that they become our name. Returning from that story to your room, you can settle yourself upon the 5 stones of this path. First stone. Do not collect weapons or practice with weapons beyond what is useful. Keep only what is necessary. Look at your bookshelf, notebooks, phone apps, the just-in-case invitations in your contacts. You could eliminate half and feel stronger, not weaker. Second stone. Do not seek to possess goods or fiefs for your old age. Don't live by a map drawn by fear. Invest in what inflation can't touch. Skills, kindness, genuine relationships, experiences that sharpen your eyes. Third stone. Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. Revere the sacred, but put weight on action. Let faith be a handrail, not a crutch. Fourth stone. You may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor. Choose to get a bit wetter so you don't lose your way home. Fifth stone. Never stray from the way. Don't stray from the inner wind. And remember, the way is in training. The way lives in practice, not in one grand vow, and then you're done. You might ask, how do I keep focus amid endless tugs, so I don't lose the thread the moment life knocks? Break practice into clear segments, like trail markers on a mountain path. At daybreak, choose the 3 things that truly serve your way this month. Set the rest down. During the week, create a small repayment fund. Call an old friend, study a skill for an hour. Do one unseen deed that's ethically right. Before a hard task, write one quiet prayer, then take one immediate small step. In the day, post one short honor vow where you'll see it. One thing you will not do, no matter the gain. And each evening, tick one small, steady, right-aimed task for tomorrow. No dramatic exertion needed, only steadiness. For as Musashi lived, the road isn't in the destination, but in the cadence matching what you believe. Long ago, under star-filled skies, people dreamed of flight. Today, under city lights, the dream isn't so different, to live like a promise and sleep like a child. If you want to feel legacy tonight, do one small right thing. Write a short letter to yourself 10 years from now, just 3 lines. One thing you will keep, one thing you will set down, one direction you will walk steadily. Fold it, tuck it into a notebook. It isn't a flashy ritual. It's a careful stitch that fastens today to tomorrow. Then dim the lights. The candle flickers on the table. Watch it burn. No arguing with the dark. No trying to outshine the stars outside. It simply does its work, to light. And even when it goes out, it has already lit the path to your rest. Perhaps tonight, you don't need to fix anything. Just breathe. Everything passes, even the brightest stars. But the sky remains, and in that sky, if you keep need, enough, faith, honor, walk, your way will brighten under your own steps. Bright not from fireworks, but from dawn. The kind of light that appears for those who wake at the right hour, open the door at the right moment, and walk steadily from the inside out. From here, with the final 5 principles placed in our hands like 5 foundation stones, the bridge across the night is formed, not a bridge for one crossing, but for 100 returns, each time steadier, less shaky. The conclusion, therefore, is no longer a stop. It's a bow. A bow to those who have passed through our lives, a bow to our former selves, and a bow to the way, where victory isn't in the stands, but in the daily alignment of deed, thought, and soul. When we step there, we find our heart calm enough to lay our head on the pillow, and in the slow, even breath, Musashi's words gleam like a red thread. Never stray from the way, because the way is in training. Tomorrow morning, we rise again and take one small step, right direction. That is enough for a lifetime. When tonight's candle has finished lighting your path back to bed, allow yourself to set down every effort. Breathe in deeply. Let your shoulders drop. Now let your thoughts drift away like thin clouds crossing a quiet sky. Close your eyes. The universe will keep you safe tonight. If Musashi's principles have given you an anchor within, let that anchor carry you into sleep, light, enough, gentle. Before you sink into silence, one last small step so the journey doesn't pause. Relink hack. In the top right corner, the suggestion card is live. Tap to watch now. The Art of Inner Stillness, Musashi's way to master modern chaos. I'll guide you through the art of stillness in Musashi's spirit, so you can move through modern chaos while keeping a steady, peaceful rhythm. Or switch to Musashi's 5 unseen enemies, and how he defeated them without a sword. Discover the 5 invisible enemies Musashi overcame without drawing a blade, only with discipline and wisdom. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe now, and hit the bell so we can meet each evening in the same rhythm. Comment below. Which principle will I practice tomorrow? Your answer could be a light for someone else. Now, one more slow breath. Everything passes, even the brightest stars. Soften your face, relax your eyes, and let your heart rest. Sleep deeply.